I'm pretty sure I figured out how not to have that other screen show up.
Yes.
We're making progress. Welcome back. This is not recorded. This is a live broadcast of Under the Liberty Tree. But we did recently have a not live broadcast of Under the Liberty Tree, a little branch. And
Cheetah Bonita goes solo.
Cheetah Bonita goes solo. You have to know what was that 90s Christian radio to know Cheetah Bonita. What was that from?
Jungle Jam.
Jungle Jam and Friends, right? So we're doing another live broadcast. We were going to do this yesterday, but neither one of us were quite ready for it in terms of our.
In other words,
we were exhausted.
Napping.
We fell asleep right after church and couldn't wake up. In fact, we have to do the video for our students too. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah. But you did a program called Monkey Can Teach That. And I was looking at the numbers. Get your calculator out. Because on YouTube, you've got 12. On Gab, you've got 67. And on Rumble, you've got 84 views. So if you carry the one and you divide by 2, and you have a lot. You have a lot of views.
Awesome. I'm very excited for my first one.
I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch the program, because we're really honored to have you be a part of it, and all the wonderful comments. We are working towards a technical solution for you being able to live comment and ask us questions. But I want to thank all of those of you who have asked questions. We are going to do some more, because you got a request from the Under the Liberty Tree branch. A Monkey Can Teach That, and you can search online for that, or go to any one of our broadcast channels, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Also Gab, right? So there's actually 4 channels we have. We have YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and Gab. And you can search any one of them. We encourage you to follow Gab or Rumble. The numbers we're seeing indicate to us that YouTube is already suppressing the content, and pretty soon we're going to be banned from Facebook.
Yeah, we're hardly getting any action on YouTube, which we figured. So, and somebody requested that I do more homeschool stuff, so I will be.
That's coming.
Pumping some more of those out.
That is coming.
Yeah.
So before we get into the topic that you wanted to talk about, I just wanted to mention something that I think is really important. Because we had CPAC last week, and lots of people are talking about CPAC, and I just need to say that this is currently the number of days since I have given any concern or care at all to who's running for re-election or election in the 2024 race.
You do love counting things.
And look, I stopped counting episodes. I didn't say anything about this being episode 9, so I think that's important. Oh yeah, it's episode 9. But I just wanted to say that there is a limit to how many days that I care, and that started 850 whatever that was days, 153 days ago. And I don't care. And the reason is very simple. The thing we're not allowed to talk about. Well, I don't know. Are we allowed to talk about? No. You could talk about COVID now, but you can't talk about the tabulation thing where the things are all counted. Can't talk about that. Anyway, really think it would be great if you'd subscribe on Rumble and also on Gab. Either one of those platforms are non-cancelable. And if you subscribe and you ask for notification, then you'll be told when we're live, because we are going to lose Facebook soon. I have desperately been trying to get Facebook to cancel me. In fact, one of my friends, George...
I'm surprised you're not.
Yeah, one of my friends, George, is like, what do you have to do to get canceled? But
maybe you're so suppressed they don't care.
We're working on it, probably. That's it. So, but you had something you wanted to share. And I think this is going to be very exciting, because it is a really important topic. So what is it that you wanted to talk about?
Well, Jordan Peterson. Now, I am not a fan of it. By that, I don't mean that I don't like Jordan Peterson.
You just don't watch him
I just don't. There's only so many podcasts you can listen to in a day. So he's just somebody that I have not ever followed. I know you do. So
I watch him when he's relevant. I actually came to this video through Rufo.
Yeah, so I've been following Chris Rufo because he's really been on a meteoric rise this year because of his outspokenness on school choice. And so he did a sit down with Jordan Peterson, which is on Daily Wire, which I really encourage you to go watch it. You have to be a Daily Wire subscriber to watch it, but it's a fascinating discussion. And I really felt like Rufo brought Jordan Peterson around to correct thinking. I think sometimes when I hear clips of Peterson, I think he's just a little bit too professorial for me to sound smart just because he has a PhD. Sometimes I just feel that way about, people with degrees. They have to sound smart because they have the degree.
Yeah, of course.
When sometimes just common sense is what is called for. And so it really goes along with what I was talking about with not just homeschooling, but the choice, parents' choice to choose what kind of school you want to send your kids to, and have that money that you're already paying. We already pay so much money in taxes, and have your own money follow your child or your grandchildren to the school that you feel is best for them. And so I really see a huge movement that's finally, we've been working 20 years. Well, people have been working hard for 20 years on
I
this.
started homeschooling in 1976.
I mean to get charter schools working. It's been, anyway, that's a whole podcast in itself. But so this really goes along with the mentality of public school versus anything else. And Rufo did a phenomenal job, and there's just a couple clips that we want to play from it that I think are really vital to unwinding the the habits that we've had for 200 years of public school system.
And this goes, absolutely. And this goes right to the heart of why we're doing this broadcast. For too long, we have, as Christians, we have decided that our worldview cannot be imposed on other people. And this is one of the things I like about Michael Knowles. The truth is, someone's going to impose a worldview. That is just the way it works, right? If you say murder is illegal, that's a worldview, right? That's a judgment that is decided. Now, it may be the majority judgment, but it is the judgment, right? And so that's true of every law, and how many laws, how far they go, those are all decided by people. And just because someone is black or white or Hispanic or Asian or Christian or Muslim, that does not mean that their worldview should be excluded from the conversation. We all have a right as citizens, this is our duty, in fact, to share our ideas about things. Now, in the end, we have to have a vote, and we have to elect representatives, and then those people are going to move their agenda forward. But the idea that any presupposed source has to be rejected out of hand is just sophistry. So everybody, every one of us, whether you agree with me or not, every one of us has a right to have our views considered, to have our views, the ideas that we want to share, considered in the public debate. And those ideas cannot be excluded just because of a background. And one of the problems, and I saw this conversation going on, and I actually created my own little meme, and I hope I can find it here, because now I don't know where it is. Oh yeah, here it is. I created my own little meme. Which
you created a meme?
Which I think, which I think is really kind of the sort of the heart of the issue. And this has been for too long. Too many of us, you're familiar with this meme, right? The superhero can't decide which button to push. Too many of us have been persuaded that we have to choose between being liked and being loving, and we don't. We can sometimes be liked, but the loving thing to do is to be truth, right? The loving thing to do is to be honest with people about what's going on. And so that's kind of where my interest in this lies, because one of the things that's happened with CRT is that it started as a theory, and I heard many people told me, "Oh, it's just it's just an academic theory. It's just theoretical thing." But ideas have consequences, and when you focus on any kind of racial essentialism, you're going to have a result come from that. if you judge people, unlike MLK said, on something other than the character of the person and their actions, if you judge them on their skin color, good or bad, then there will be consequences from that. So do you want to start with this conversation? We're just taking some snippets from a larger conversation, which is available on the Daily Wire. And I would strongly encourage you, we'll provide a link later, I would strongly encourage you to go and watch the whole conversation, because this is probably the most important thing, in my opinion, that's going on right now, is this conversation around CRT and what worldview will we have? Will we have one that says, like our declaration says, all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights? Or will we say there are oppressors and unoppressed, and the world needs to be viewed that way? Those are two very distinct worldviews.
So I think we start off with this clip, because I've heard, and I'm sure you have too, I'm not on social media, but just in conversation with people, well, I don't want my kids being taught CRT, but I can't even really tell you what it is. And this clip, if you want to know, and just write it down and keep it in your phone, this is the perfect summation of what is CRT.
This is about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And we're going to stop it as we go through. But this started because Jordan Peterson, in a separate conversation, made a comment that, I kind of like some of what is coming out of Florida, but I'm worried about an authoritarian impulse. And Peterson said what he frequently says, which is CRT is really hard to nail down. So let's start there. Let's try that again.
Concepts to nail. Critical race theory is a very difficult, what would you say, set of concepts to nail down. And I've kind of characterized that whole general domain, me and others, obviously, as a pastiche of postmodernism and Marxism. And out of that comes an identity politics, which is the Marxist experiment failed on the economic front. And all the Marxists did was they performed a sleight of hand and transformed economic inequality and oppression into identity, inequality, and oppression. And
super duper accurate and academic, but also just what? Like, what exactly did he say? So let's go on.
Just went on with the same damn game. And as far as I can tell, CRT is just an offshoot of that, But you've delved into it with a fair bit of effort, let's say, and over a fairly long period of time. So let's start by just talking about what constitutes critical race theory as far as you're concerned.
Now, before we get to Rufo, just so you know, his background is that he was a documentarian. He was of the left. His family is of the left. He believed the whole oppressor-oppressed thing, and he was very much out of that school. He's Italian, and his family, going back generations,
Italians
was very, very much oriented towards from each according to his means, to each according to his needs. And that's all he ever knew. And he made multiple documentaries. And his transformation came, and he discusses this in the interview, but his transformation came when he was studying the populations in 3 different cities and what led to poverty. And it was that process of going through that led him to kind of look at and think about this idea of critical race theory and what it means. And so let's go back to that and see what his definition is.
Sure, I think it's actually pretty easy to define. I think there are 3 main concepts. You have the social analysis. It's that the United States is a white supremacist country that promotes the concepts of freedom and equality, but this is merely a smokescreen for naked racial domination. Second, the doctrine of intersectionality says that the world can be divided between oppressor and oppressed. But innovating from the Marxist economic axis, they say, no, it's actually an axis of identity, predominantly race, but also including gender and sexuality. And then the third key component or idea is, well, what do you do to fix it?
So the 3 parts are just very simply, America is not what it says it is. It's a lie. The second one is that what we used to think of, what communists used to think of as the rich and the poor, economic terms, now is broken down on unchangeables, because one of the reasons America was so resistant to Marxism is that Americans always thought, hey, I could become that guy, like, the Elon Musk story or the Bill Gates story or any other number of stories of people who came from nothing or relatively middle class and could advance. And so it was always hard for Americans to buy into Marx because they either were aspiring to it or knew someone who'd actually accomplished moving into another class. So that's why the Marxist reformulated it around unchangeables. Because if you can get someone to believe they're oppressed, critical race theory, by virtue of their skin color, and that they can't advance without that, then they're permanently ready for revolution. All right, so let's go back to Rufo. The third one, of course, being what do you do about it, which is what he goes into here.
They argue that the constitutional protections of the First Amendment, the 14th Amendment, private property should be overridden, should be suspended, and then society should engage in large-scale
I don't know what
seizure and redistribution along the axis of race until you have equal outcomes. And so that's it. It's really not that complicated. Sure,
And
I love the way he does it.
Yeah,
it's not that complicated.
It's not that complicated. And there's the key, right? Is this equal outcomes thing, and that is a chimera. It is a fantasy, because it's not possible. If you take 10 people, we all know this. If you take 10 people and you evenly divide up the same resources to all 10, within 3 weeks or less, they're all going to be in different situations. I will have spent all of mine. I probably, if it's a large enough amount, I will have bought a boat. You will have saved yours, maybe invested some, and we will be very different. We'll be at very different places because that's human nature.
Yeah. And this is being taught. Now Rufo is focusing on the university level, but this is being taught now from no matter what your school board says, the way they get around it is, no, it is not written as lesson plans. It's woven as a worldview. Yeah.
Right, which goes back I
was going to say it's a lifestyle. They weave it into this lifestyle of school. And so that the kids grow up in, this is what they think because this is our lifestyle. Our lifestyle says, oh, well, no, we shouldn't enjoy the good D'Espresso Libre coffee. Everyone should drink Folgers. Ugh. Nobody wants to drink Folgers. Well, I'm sorry if you drink Folgers, but I'm not drinking Folgers. But that's what the
Some
lifestyle.
Some people want to drink Folgers, but that's the point, right? You get to choose.
But that's the lifestyle. They want all children, this whole next generation, to grow up in that thinking that everything has to be equal. Their first thought is everything equal? Is everything equal? Is everything go? Or do I have better sneakers than you have?
And if it's not, it's evil.
And so it's being woven into every subject, language arts, math. It's in the word problems. I mean, it's so convoluted. Yeah. So it's sad, insidious.
Really. Yeah, it's sad because you can't. If that's how you view the world, you'll never be happy. Like, you cannot be happy. Mm-hmm. You cannot be satisfied. You cannot be at peace because, of course, there's always going to be somebody with more than you, which is the whole point, right? That's the point of the Marxist experiment, is that we'll just keep destroying whatever is, wherever the power is, we'll destroy that, and something better will come out.
It destroys what I've said we both have, but in terms of education itself, it destroys gratefulness. Yeah. And once you have a generation that cannot ever express gratefulness for anything because you're constantly comparing what somebody else has over what you have, or feeling guilty because you have something that someone else doesn't have. And you have not learned, you have not taught your children to be grateful. We are a completely different people.
Yeah, and that is so important because that's why we're doing this. It is not enough to say live and let live, because if a whole generation is raised with this mindset, then the nation is changed. It's fundamentally transformed. And that's the problem, right? Is that we are seeing our society fundamentally transformed. And you can say, well, I don't care, it's not my problem, I got mine. But they're going to come for yours because once a vast majority of the population believes that their self-identity is the only important thing, and that you have to change your language and your worldview to meet theirs and accept whatever they say, then everything changes. Because as CRT says, as Rufo pointed out, America's ideal of freedom is a lie. That's fundamental. So they're not, you're tolerant, you're willing to just, oh, well, you know what, it's not my problem. But they are not. And because they are not, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, it's the aggressor that sets the rules. Let's go back to this and finish this up.
They have citations.
No,
of-
it's basically Marxism repackaged using ethnic, racial, and sexual identity.
Now look at how quick he got that.
See, that's what common sense
It's
does.
Marxism repackaged using racial.
You don't need
Yeah.
big PhD
Yeah.
words.
All right, here we go.
It's because, especially with regards to the notion that the entire capitalist infrastructure should be demolished and wealth redistributed. It's like, well, it's not the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. It's whatever racial group or sexual group or ethnic group that you happen to place in the ascendancy.
That's
And by the way, this is why it's so important that we talk about this.
Yep.
Because any one of us in our own little silo might be persuaded, yeah, you know what, just not going to get involved. It's too complicated. But when you have two guys from different backgrounds who both come at this thing, and by the way, Jordan Peterson has long been an anti-Marxist. Rufo is relatively recent.
new, yeah.
But Rufo has a clarity about this thing that Peterson just doesn't have. All right, here we go. The last bit.
that's right.
So, and I think this is mostly due to French intellectual theorists in the 1970s who had to abandon their appalling allegiance to Marxism under the unbearable pressure of the evidence that all that ever produced was murderous outcomes. And instead of learning their lesson deeply, which they could have, all they did was they did a slight sidestep, shuffle, and produced all these appalling theories that the Americans, mostly through Yale University and the English department there, by the way, gravitated.
Yeah, so that's kind of the end of that. Now, we do have another clip, you said, that you want to look at as well?
There's one more.
Okay, so we'll take a look at that. Did you have anything else you want to talk about with that one?
No, but it goes to, what are we calling this episode?
Winning requires offense.
Right. Winning requires offense.
Or offense.
Because you have to say
See
things
what I did
that you're so clever. Yes, I know you want to be honored for your cleverness.
No, I don't care. I don't need the credit. I don't care who gets the credit as long as I get the
Yes,
credit.
as long as you get it. But it's we have to be beyond the you do you phase of our country.
Yeah.
We can't do that anymore. We've stopped saying, "Oh, you do you." No. Don't do, because then I have to do you, and I don't want to do you.
You do you works as long as everybody's okay with that. That's sustainable as long as everybody's okay with that. But we're entering a new phase where not everybody is okay with that. We've had a great run. You do you has been sort of the watchword, but we have allowed this infiltration to occur at the education level, and we're now at the place where we're saying you do you, and they're saying you do us.
Yeah. So we have to get past, we have to have the courage to start saying things that will offend because they're truth. But then the other part of it is what's in this next clip is that we have to stop caring about being liked.
Right. To go back to that, we definitely have to stop caring about being liked. I just really like my meme, so
Your meme is fabulous, darling. It's fabulous.
I want to show my meme again.
Yes.
I really like my meme. If I could figure out how to add it, this is the problem, right? We equate being loving with being liked, and in some sense that may be possible, like to be liked, but it has to start with being loving. Yeah, we have to tell people the truth. We have to make the choice first to be loving. And being loving means telling someone, hey, that idea that you have, that idea is destructive. That idea is not good for people. And if you keep going down that path, then we're all going to be worse off for it. So now the second part, and this is the one that you wanted to talk about. This is Rufo talking about kind of his awakening. And again, all of this is available at the Daily Wire. We strongly encourage you. It doesn't have to be the Daily Wire, although we like that, but find a reliable resource for the truth, and then put your money where your mouth is, because for a long time, we, the people, have benefited from the investment made by our founding fathers, and we were able to rely on the general society to provide, sort of balanced information, or at least competitively balanced information. And now it's time for another investment. Now it's time for us to step up and not just take free media, whatever free media comes. We are going to have to start subscribing to magazines again, or
magazines.
That's a little old-fashioned.
Even I don't read
But news
magazines.
sources. So we do. I don't know how to say it. Is it Epoch Times or Epoch Times?
I've heard it both ways.
Okay.
I mean, the word is epoch.
And then we subscribe to Daily Wire for information there. And I think I might do Babylon Bee because I like what they're doing as well. But it is really important. It is critically important that we do that. So here's Rufo talking about how he came to leave the world that he was in as a neo-Marxist and come to the other side.
Line, we must say this. You cannot say anything that would contradict the great party line. And it's like, once I ejected from that world, once I opened up this new terrain, and actually, frankly, once I moved out of a big urban center in Seattle and moved out to a smaller town, it's like, this is where kind of actual free thinking, actual the feeling of freedom, the feeling of intellectual possibility. And I think one of the reasons that my work has been successful is because I've been kind of liberated from that stifling orthodoxy, that cultural milieu, that institutional pattern. And then, I see all of these folks attacking me. You can't say this, you can't do this, you have to observe this. The Atlantic wrote a piece recently that said, a qualified endorsement of Christopher Rufo, but it was 90% qualifications and 10% endorsement, because these folks on the center left, they know they agree with me.
And that's it. They know they agree with him, but they are so obsessed with being, they have to be liked. And they're terrified of being canceled by their friends, by their family. And we are at the place, much like I'm going to say one of those horrible words, our forefathers were in, and by that was their families, that was their wives and their children too. Their wives were just as strong as the men who were drafting the Constitution and fighting in the war. The women were fighting the Revolutionary War too. We have to have the courage to say, if this is wrong, and if that means our family's divided, and you have to stand up. Yes, sadly. I mean, it hurts, and but you can't reject truth, and you can't, because our country is relying on us to have courage to speak truth. And that's why we're doing this. I would encourage, we want everybody, start a podcast. If 1,000 people started a podcast this year, every year, 1,000 conservatives started podcasts, there would be so overwhelmed on social media with conservatives. Conservatives speak. I hope this is what happens. Get a microphone, get online. Even if it's the scariest thing you ever did, do it, because we have to inundate the culture with truth. We have to get out of our hiding in our caves and get out and speak the truth. That is the only thing that is going to rescue. And I have another video that we're going to do, another short episode on grooming, because we're talking about that's such a horrible word.
Not like hair and makeup grooming, actual
it's
grooming.
A real thing, and
it is.
I mean, we are at such a tipping point. I mean, we've been getting, Rick Santorum said this 25 years ago, the slippery slope, and he was so mocked for saying that. Look, we are at a crucial tipping point of the going over the cliff and having no way to return. That Overton window is getting pushed so far.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because I was reading this the other day. It was a comment someone made on Twitter about the fact that young people who believe this stuff are doing so because there's a void. The young people, and it's easy to mock. That's a tendency that I certainly appreciate. It's easy to mock the silliness of it. There was a video going around like a week ago about a young lady. That was actually in my list of things to do, but we decided to drop that. But it's a young lady who's asked a question, and she talks about the dating scene, and it was really sad because it was obvious that she's an attractive young woman who has learned to use her sexual attractiveness to advance, but no one in her life cared enough to tell her that it was much more important that she develop her mind and her ability to think. And she was trying in this video to express her frustration with the dating scene. But because no one had told her or taught her how to communicate effectively, she couldn't. And she literally said, I don't know how to put this in words. And a lot of people were mocking her, and I just felt heartbroken because all of us, deep inside, we have a desire to make a difference.
Yeah.
And this attitude that we've portrayed in our generation and the generation before of you do you, it sounds nice. It seems like it should make everybody happy. But the truth is that that's not what we're wired for. We're wired to have meaning. And so the young people who are drawn into and attracted by, say, climate denial, climate catastrophism or catastrophism, environmental activists.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they feel a strong, innate need to mean something. Yeah. And if you believe that you're simply the accident that comes from random moving of molecules over billions of years, then of course you have no purpose. There is nothing.
And that's what's really, we talk about homeschooling for us because we chose homeschooling. I left my career, my potential career wasn't picking up because I was already told, unless you join the union, you will have no career. Right. So, which ended up being the truth.
It was pretty accurate.
It was pretty accurate. But this push since the 1950s that women have no value unless you're in the workforce, and a lot of them did experience a different the way people viewed them because many of them went to work during World War II and then had to go back home. When I say go back home, it felt, for a lot of them, it felt like, I felt I was so much more useful 2 years ago, and now I'm at home and my kids are going to school, and now I'm putting on my pearls and vacuuming in high heels, and what is the meaning of this? Because we forgot that being a mother, being a wife, and frankly, there are a lot of things you can do at home. Like, there are a lot of things you can do from home, and we haven't taught the next generation, this generation that's growing up, that there is so much value in being a feminine woman, not being a feminist woman, and how beautiful it is to be a mom. Now, I'm not saying that the be all and end all is to be a mother. Like, a lot of women aren't mothers, and that's okay. But there is where we're despising women who go back to leave work and go back home or decide to stay home.
Right, and women are told that you don't matter unless you have something outside of raising children.
And it makes me sad because that young lady, that, first of all, as a language arts teacher, just hearing her say the word like, I think it was 26 times in 2 minutes, that was really wrenching to me.
It really was.
But it was just so difficult to listen to that as a teacher and say, that is the perfect example of what is wrong with our education system. When I say public school is not the best education, because that is not an isolated case. Right. That is the norm.
No, she is the norm.
That example of speech
That's exactly
is the norm. And so that's why I say charter schools are better because they focus on communicate. That is the most important skill you can teach children is communication. And it broke my heart to watch that young lady because first of all, she had no value about herself and nobody taught her that.
Right.
And because there is no value in the feminist theory, right? There is value in being feminine. There's so much value.
Here's the article, the tweet that I was looking for, and I want to share this because I think it's really well said. What 95% of the political right does not understand about wokeism is that young people are drawn to the ideology because it appeals to a sense of justice. In the absence of traditional religion, it fills a void and gives them an experience of participating in the cosmic fight against evil. All the superhero movies, right? They're all oriented towards this same concept of, we're doing battle against evil, right? That's so innate.
Yeah.
And those of us who are like, it's not my problem, just live and let live. We're missing that this is why they're doing this. They're doing this because we're not doing them the kindness of being loving by telling them the truth. It says, in short, they convert to this ideology for moral reasons. We often combat this ideology with either a pragmatic argument, go woke, go broke, and I see that all the time on Twitter.
Yeah.
But pragmatic arguments do not win against moral arguments. We have to be prepared to make the moral case for a meritocracy and the system of government put in place by America's founders. And we are fighting a losing battle only because I think the only reason we're fighting a losing battle is because we haven't been engaged. We have not considered this to be important. We have thought, we'll just let it go. You do you, I'll do me. Everything will be fine.
Yeah, but there's another factor that wasn't in that, because I recognize his name. I think I follow him too. Is that...
Jeremy Wayne?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's who that was.
Oh.
That's Jeremy
no.
Wayne.
Oh, you sent it to me. That's why I recognized it. But no, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, apparently that guy right there.
No idea who that is. Yeah, anyway.
I don't either.
But a huge factor that he's missing out of there, and he's correct, I'm not saying that he's wrong, is that we don't teach in our culture, and I am so sick of that word culture, and here I am using the word culture. In American culture, we don't teach respect of the older generations. When you go to Japan, even though they're they're ultra modern. I mean, I've never been to Japan, but I love watching documentaries on Japan. They have.
I thought you were going to say
anime.
No, not anime. The movies you always loved, Godzilla movies.
Oh, hey, they are awesome. You love to ridicule my love of Godzilla.
No,
classic
it's awesome.
Godzilla. I love classic Godzilla. I love it. Anyway, so they have such, even though they are ultra modern, they are always on the cutting edge of of whatever is new. I don't even know what they are, but they also have so much respect for their ancient heritage and their senior citizens. They revere their senior citizens. And here, we just look at the former generation or two, and you're like, what do you know? Rebelling. I mean, they don't care. Whereas, and that is a big part of it, is that they almost loathe anything that two older generations say is, no, this is wise. They reject wisdom from the experience of people who have lived 60, 70, 80 years, which is really dangerous as a society when you do that, because you are really dispelling a lot of wisdom out of your culture.
because you are doing what the Maoists did, right? They
yes,
got
that is
rid
exactly
of all
what they
the
did.
olds.
Yeah.
And it's not that the olds are always right. There is always a need for growth and innovation, but if the olds are completely ignored, then there's going to be problems. So I guess the bottom line for us on this episode, and the reason we wanted to pretty much dedicate a whole episode to it, is we really want to encourage you, this concept of under the Liberty Tree. We're not doing this because we hope to become famous and do a broadcast. What we really want to do is encourage regular folks like us to just take one risk, one small risk and speak out in whatever environment you think most appropriate, and recognize that this fight that we are sort of acts, they call it the culture war, but we're
Yeah.
we're on defense, and that's part of the problem. Is we've been playing defense, saying, hey, look, as long as you, okay, we'll give you that, as long as you, and we've been ceding ground and ceding ground and ceding ground until we don't even know that there's any ground left.
As long as you do it in the privacy of your home.
Right, and literally they're saying, well, you have freedom to worship in the privacy of your own home. And we're like, wait, no, that's not what that means, right? So it is time to go on offense, and that does mean sometimes people will be offended, but that is not inconsistent with our heritage, our history, or our worldview. And the only culture that has consistently allowed for conflicting worldviews is ours, is we the people. It's liberty and justice for all. It's rights given to us, inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. That's the only worldview that allows for a pluralistic society. No other society can be sustained that way. And so it's no longer a question of whether or not we're going to get engaged. It's really just a question of whether or not we will get engaged too late. I want to just wrap up by saying thank you so much.
And I'm out of coffee too.
I'm just we're so blessed that you take the time to listen. We really want subscribers on Rumble because we want to go live on all platforms. It's just a ton easier for us. And then it also gives us better distribution. And like I said at the beginning of the program, Melanie's views on Rumble really were great. They were actually our best platform. Rumble was 84 for her last episode. And there's a lot better algorithms there for the kind of thing that we're talking about. So while we are participating for as long as possible in Facebook and YouTube, we know that's going to come to an end pretty quickly. We know our YouTube is getting suppressed. What were the numbers on your numbers on YouTube were unbelievable. 12 views was all you got on YouTube versus 84 on Rumble and 67 on Gab. So there's a lot of opportunity for us, but that involves us staying connected, and that means you subscribing on Gab or Rumble, because ultimately that's where it's going to be. We'd love to get to 25. We're getting closer, but we need 25 subscribers on Rumble to get us across
So
the
if
line.
you wouldn't mind sharing this with your friends,
I hate doing this.
and asking them, I know I do too, but
All right, and we'll see you next
Thanks.
time under the Liberty.